St. Thomas Aquinas said, faith opens the door to the spiritual life. Faith opens the door to the spiritual life. I like that. Faith is a gracious gift of God, sheer gift, gratuitous, of God's generosity for us to come to worship tonight. We don't earn faith, we don't merit faith, we don't deserve faith. But through humility and love, it impels us to live by faith. A small book in the Old Testament, the prophet Habakkuk, he writes about the paralysis of a world without faith. It's collapsing on every side. It's getting bleaker and darker. Violence, discord, division. The rash man has no integrity, but the person of faith, because he has faith, will live. The prophets teach us that. The martyrs teach us that, don't they? Watching the world news would almost be the prophecy of the vision of a Habakkuk. It gets darker and darker. It gets more toxic and more toxic. And we're looking for the rainbow of faith to hold on to. Faith in God, faith in humanity, faith in ourselves, faith in our leaders, faith in our dreams, faith in love. When people are coming into the faith, we ask them, what do you ask of God's holy church? You know what the response thunders? Faith. I want to say to the people who have been Catholic their whole life, can you have that same plea and that same cry? I want a dosage of faith. As small as a mustard seed, the smallest seed in all of Palestine. Not magnanimous faith, not great faith, but the most insignificant particle, spectacle, can become spectacular. We've all experienced people who have small faith and have had a significant influence in our lives. Franciscan sisters taught me when I was in grade school. Franciscan brothers and priests taught me in high school. They planted the seed of faith. Faith must be nurtured. It must be strengthened. It must be fortified. Faith can die unless it's strengthened and nurtured and cultivated. Jesus says it's not the quantity of faith, it's the quality of faith, of the attitude of a disciple, to do God's will, to hear his word. Mustard seed faith. Oh, it has so much power because it's so authentic. When we rely on God's power rather than human strength, human talent, human charisma, human whatever. The power of faith can move mountains. Jesus uses this apt image from nature of a mustard seed that can uproot a mulberry tree, unimaginable. It's planted in the seed. Jesus used this untethered exaggeration to emphasize that if our faith is rooted in God, we can accomplish what seems impossible. It's not about performing miracles for our sake, but trusting that God can act through us. I met a priest today. He's a spiritual priest in Duquesne. He's in his 40s. He's been in 26 countries in the world. He speaks 10 languages. And he said, when I was young, I wanted to be a doctor. I was studying medicine, and all of a sudden, I wanted to be a missionary. And I've got to go to all these different countries as a vocation director. Well, I lived 13 years in Germany to go to Europe to plant seeds of faith. I said, Father, I admire your faith. I'm inspired by it. The power of faith. Faith is activated through humility and service to others. It doesn't seek recognition. It doesn't seek reward. No, it seeks humble service. A servant is doing their duty. I'm doing my duty. It's my responsibility to grace you with my faith. I had a man in my last parish. He taught 8th grade religious education class for over 60 years. And every time I would go into John's room, Mr. Sandbolt, he had them 8th graders eating out of his hand. Didn't matter when it was. He had the Bible there. He had the catechism there. He had the textbook there. And I said, John, they're still listening to you. He said, oh, the potency and the power of faith must take root in every generation. He didn't write off the young people. He witnessed to the young people. And he was faithful over 6 decades of cultivating and nurturing faith. You know, in studies, we can calculate and measure somebody's aptitude, competencies, skill set. But we can't do that with faith, right? You can't really measure it. It's not something scientific. But we know that deep trust in God's presence unleashes a power in the universe that is untold. In prayer, we ask not just for more faith, but deeper trust in God's guidance, God's plan, God's vision for the world, God's dream for our life. In action, we live out our faith every day in small, consistent ways of love, service, sacrifice, forgiveness. We're living our faith. It's something organic. It's tangible. It's concrete. It's connatural. And faith must be in our attitude to serve others without recognition, without reward. Remembering that all good comes from God anyway. So let us embrace our faith. Let us worship our faith. No matter how small or dormant it may be, true faith has great power. It fills us with hope. I got a call this afternoon from a floor of a lady who was going through a faith crisis. When it rains, it pours. And I was listening to her saga of sadness. And I just listened attentively, tried to be as empathetic, an unconditional positive regard for her. And after I listened to her plight, I said, is there anything I could offer you today? And she said simply, pray for my faith. Today's liturgy asks us to be ready to pray. Lord, increase our faith. And if we genuinely and honestly and humbly ask it, don't you think God will deliver?